Dragon's Dogma 2 is an upcoming action role-playing video game that is being developed and published by Capcom. The last entry in the series was released back in 2012, and more recently in the past few years, rumors have circulated about the eventual return of the franchise. In the past month, Capcom had an internal leak that shed light on the franchise and when fans can expect the series to return. So let's break down the Capcom Leak, an insider source about the game, and the leak being verified. As always, all the sources will be linked in the description below, so make sure to check those out and support those original writers. This is going to be a follow-up to my original video on Dragon's Dogma 2, so I will link that down below if you want to hear about some additional rumors and details. And with that out of the way, let's get into the Dragon's Dogma 2 leak. Now, I have recently covered the leak with a focus on the news from Resident Evil 8 Village, but if you don't know anything about the leak or haven't read any articles, I will do a quick summary. So on November 2nd, Capcom announced that it was a victim of a security leak within their internal systems and servers. Capcom confirmed that a third party was responsible for the attack, and at the time Capcom was still trying to assess what types of information had been taken. But they did announce that they were working with law enforcement to work through an investigation and find out who was responsible for the leak. And as time has gone on, more and more documents have been released and various pieces of information have circulated through the various communities for Capcom properties. And one of these properties, and the main subject of this video, is Dragon's Dogma. A document was found which contained a tentative release schedule for the company, which started in Q4 in fiscal 2021 and made its way all the way up to Q4 of fiscal 2024, so a lot of games are in this leak. Some of the games listed include the Resident Evil 4 remake, Monster Hunter 6, and a Power Stone remake as well. But the focus of this video will be on Dragon's Dogma 2, which was also included in the document, and had a tentative release date of Q2 in fiscal 2022. And if you don't know how fiscal years work, they do not end and start with January like our normal calendar years. The start of the fiscal year is actually April 1st, which means in this case, fiscal 2022 will start in April of 2022, and they also say it's in the second quarter, which means the game will be released in either July, August, or September of 2022, which is under 2 years away at the time of recording. And this information did come from a leaked document, which has led to the validity of the document itself being questioned and if this was true or fake or what's going on with it. And that was until IGN was able to confirm that some of the games on the list are legitimate, and they specifically list Dragon's Dogma 2 and Street Fighter 6 as the ones they can confirm 100%, but they note that they could be potentially out of date, but they are coming at some point and they could confirm that these games are happening. And I tend to trust the sources that IGN has. They are a massive publication and are usually very well connected in the gaming industry, and the fact they point out Dragon's Dogma 2 as one of the specific games they can verify is a good sign for this leak and leads to good things that most likely we could see the game in July, August, or September of 2022. There was another leak that was posted earlier this year, but was after the release of my last video, so I haven't covered it since then, and it gives another small detail about the game. The leak itself comes from DuskGolem, who has been mentioned multiple times on this channel before and is one of the most reputable sources when it comes to Capcom news and leaks. It is mostly well known for Resident Evil information, but this leak actually comes from a Reset Era post, where a community member asked if Itsuno is working on Dragon's Dogma 2 or a different title. Itsuno is a Japanese video game director and was the director for the original Dragon's Dogma, and has been very quiet in terms of what the next project he would be working on, considering his last released project was Devil May Cry 5, and that was released back in 2019. And no official word has been given since then on his future projects, even though he has teased wanting to return to the Dragon's Dogma franchise. Now, DuskGolem responded to this comment and said, quote, "I do know a little bit about Itsuno's project, but I won't say much more except that it's an open world and they are expanding features of the RE engine to work with a more open format for the title." And this, combined with the other leaks, starts to paint a clear picture that most likely this game is being worked on and it is a sequel to Dragon's Dogma. It might be a little bit further in development than we think. If the game's coming out in less than 2 years, they probably are out of the pre-production phase and have started actual production and development of the title. And if they're expanding the engine and already know it's going to be an open world and kind of how to craft this, it sounds like they might be a little bit further ahead than most fans thought, even though the development has been pretty quiet and they've been very secretive about not showing off anything and not letting too much information leak. Which leads into the next topic I want to quickly touch on, which is which platform should we expect this title to be released on, and the RE engine itself. So with a 2022 release, I would definitely expect a release on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and last gen consoles might be left behind at this point. During a recent Q&A session, the president and COO of Capcom were answering questions about the RE engine specifically, and confirmed that the RE engine was built specifically as a future-proof software that is able to easily transition to the next generation of consoles from Microsoft and Sony. And the exact quote said, "The games we develop using the RE engine during this current hardware generation have received critical acclaim. And from the early stages of building the engine, we kept the ability to augment it for next generation development in mind. As such, we view the RE engine as one of our strengths that will continue to next generation game creation." And this is not too surprising to hear that Capcom would want to stay current with their next cycle of games, and I expect Dragon's Dogma 2 to be no different. So even though this software has only been used on last generation consoles, it is already updated to move forward, and I would not be surprised if Dragon's Dogma 2 is a next generation exclusive, which would also give the development team a lot more freedom to expand the engine and create a massive open world that fans would expect from a true next generation Dragon's Dogma game, compared to if they also had to develop for last generation consoles as well. And if all of this wasn't enough to convince you that Dragon's Dogma is coming back, I just wanted to touch on the fact that in September, Netflix released a Dragon's Dogma anime. The series has not, as of now, been picked up for a second season, but it is another cross-promotion move that is definitely being done to build up and remind fans of the Dragon's Dogma franchise before the release of the second title. It's not an accident that this was being developed and released when one of the next major games from Capcom is going to be Dragon's Dogma. It's all connected. It seems like they're putting a good foot forward with this game and title, getting it back into people's minds, marketing it correctly, and just letting fans build up this world again and be a true competitor to some of these massive RPG games we've seen. So let's close out with discussing what fans should expect in 2021. I would expect to see some sort of trailer or teaser at a minimum. The game now has under 2 years until release if the leak is still true, which also depends on a multitude of factors such as COVID, if the leak itself has now affected how Capcom is treating development, and just the sheer nature of game development and how much time it takes for these games. And at least as of now, we know for sure the title is coming and is coming sooner than most fans expected. DuskGolem has said they are modifying the engine and it will be this still big open world that fans expect from the franchise. And that's really all we know about the Dragon's Dogma leak and where I'm going to end this video. Make sure to like and share, subscribe for weekly gaming videos, and I will see you guys in the next one.